talk about your progress and your growth relative to the game of golf. And for you, this might sound like lower scores, more wins, higher placement, hitting it further, a lower handicap perhaps. That's typically what we think about when we're playing the game of golf. What we do is we have a tendency to think there's a direct correlation between the amount of effort that we put in and the results that we see. And the way that we measure these results is usually in numbers. It's going to be score, handicap, distance, placement, whether we finish first, we finish in the top 10, qualifying for something that we didn't qualify in last year. And sometimes we see these gross and these results, and sometimes we do not. And when we don't see them, it's really important to take a look at what we're making that mean or the story that we're telling ourselves. So you might be putting in a lot of work. You might be working on the mental part of your game. You might be working on the physical part of your game. You might be working out, exercising more, trying to build up some more speed and some muscle. You're doing all the things, but you're saying to yourself, I'm just not seeing the results. I'm not seeing the growth in my game. And it can feel really discouraging, especially when we don't think that's happening fast enough. And when you think about it, if you were to think that my results aren't showing up, I'm not having any growth, I'm not getting the output that I think I should have considering the amount of time that I put into it, how you feel is really going to dictate how engaged you stay with the game. Like, this is where we can get burnout, where we're tired of trying so hard and working so hard and then not seeing a direct correlation between that and our result. Now, I've talked about this in quite a few different podcasts about seeing our results fast enough or what we make it mean if we're not seeing them. But I want you to really just pay attention to the term and the terminology you're using, because this has been a topic that has been coming up for me over and over again with some of my clients, is talking about growth and not seeing growth and not feeling like you're getting anywhere. And not necessarily with the mental part of the game. I'm just saying as that measurement of it being numbers. I thought I'd be shooting lower by now. I thought I'd be winning more tournaments. I thought my handicap would go down. I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I'm just not seeing it in the results. And I want you to differentiate. There's a difference between progress and growth, especially relative to the game of golf. And this could be totally semantics. I get it. You could send me an email afterwards and say, Kathy, the definitions of these words mean something else to you. It doesn't matter. I want you to stay with me. I mean, it does matter what you think matters. I'm just saying, just stay with me on this through the fine line that I'm drawing here so that you can see how this plays out for you. So progress can be you getting out of the bunker more times than you were the last time, the last year, last season. Hitting it slightly closer. You used to hit bunker shots that were on average 20 feet from the pin, and now they're 10 feet from the pin. That is progress. However, if you keep missing the 10-footer or you're two-putting from the 20-footer, you might not see the growth. You might not see the result in your scores, but you've made progress relative to the bunker. You might witness your ball being more in play off the tee and you're hitting more fairways. And you have less curve on your ball. You're not slicing it as much. That's progress. But you might not see a lot of change in your score or your handicap. That's physical. I could go on and on and on, right, about all the physical things. Mentally, this can show up in so many different ways. It could be that it used to bug the heck out of you when you were playing with a Betty or a Bob that used to drive you crazy, and now you can manage them so much better. They don't bother you as much. They're not affecting your score as much. They're not affecting your experience on the golf course. That's progress. You might notice that your stages of awareness are different. This could be you changing and shifting into different stages of awareness, right? There's 3 stages of awareness. We notice it after the fact. So you're in the clubhouse looking back and going, I can't believe I did that thing on number 3. Then we notice it while it's happening. You're doing that thing on number 3. You're in the middle of doing it. And then the last stage of awareness is where you get ahead of it. Like, this is part of my story where I have a tendency to do this thing on number 3. Now you've moved yourself through different stages of awareness. That's progress. Right? You saying, I caught myself in the middle of putting pressure on myself on the par 3 over water. I witnessed it this time. That's progress. Because the first time you probably didn't notice it until you were in the clubhouse. It could be like, now I have a game plan for when I'm standing over the ball on the par 3 with the shot over water. That's progress. You being ticked off for 3 holes instead of 5 holes is progress. You being able to pivot back to the present moment when your brain goes and focuses on the score more times than it used to, progress. You signing up for more tournaments when you used to avoid them in the past is also progress. Let me keep going so I don't have to keep saying the word progress every time. 3 putting less. less anxious over the start of a round. Instead of 3 holes or 4 holes to settle down, now it takes you 2. Putting yourself out there to play with other people instead of your comfortable group. Playing with better golfers or lower handicap golfers where you used to avoid it in the past. Fine-tuning your pre-shot routine. Separating out your skills as a caddy versus a player. Being more definitive and more decisive over the golf ball. Learning to trust yourself more. Building your confidence skills. Having your own back more often. Stepping into a round feeling intentional about what you're going to think and how you're going to feel that day. Setting on attention to be 18 proud at the end of the round. Making numbers more neutral. So after the round, your life experience is different. You're not ticked off and mopey and no fun to be around. That is all progress. And it might not appear in the bottom line. You might not see it in a shift in your handicap. You might not see it as a lower score. You might be able to do all those things and still not win the tournament because that's golf. But that doesn't mean that you haven't made progress. Because when you look at only the bottom line, when you're only looking at the growth, when you're only looking at the numbers, you're missing all the things that your work is paying off, that are moving you closer, that are shifting your experience, that's shifting the way that you feel on the golf course. There are things that you want to give yourself a high five for, because if you keep stacking up progress after progress and you give yourself wins and you recognize it, the growth will happen. The shifts will happen. They're just going to happen in the timeline they're going to happen. But you want to catch yourself feeling defeated or in despair because the story that you tell yourself is you're not seeing the results that you thought you'd see given all the work that you're putting in. I want you to go back and look for all the moments that you are actually making progress, that you are moving closer. And I promise you, if you are doing mental work on a consistent basis, there is no downside to that. There's zero downside. There's only upside, because it is going to shift your experience, meaning how you get to feel. And if you are going into the game of golf in a more positive, beneficial emotion, the impact can only be positive on your golf game. There is no way that it is better for your golf game for you to hit a shot from anger or pressure or anxiety versus calm or certain or confident or hopeful. No way. I'm not saying that you can't have a decent result, but on a consistent basis, day in and day out, round after round, shot after shot, there is no way that those positive, beneficial, useful places, emotions, or experiences is not going to greatly impact your experience on the golf course and the growth that you have within the game of golf. All right, my friends, I want you to find the progress that you are making mechanically, mentally, physically, course management. Find the progress, even if you aren't seeing the growth. Because if you keep focusing on the numbers and how they're making you feel crappy, that is not going to breed an environment for you to have more growth. You're going to be in despair and defeated and feel negative, feel like quitting, feel like burnout, tired of trying. When sometimes all it takes is one little shift in the way that you look at things, when you start realizing that, you know what, actually I've had a lot of progress. And I trust that eventually I will see the growth. Subscribe to the channel to master your golf brain and listen to Think Above Par on your favorite podcast platform.